African timing has often been used to represent the relaxed attitude with which Africans relate to time. If you're visiting Africa from a Western culture for the first time, you might get frustrated at how relaxed time is viewed, both in business as well as personal life. A meeting scheduled for 10 a.m. could easily start at 12 noon, while a hair appointment for 1 p.m. could see you waiting for your hairdresser or barber for 1 or 2 hours before you begin. While not all Africans are bad with time or keeping appointments, Africans do generally treat time differently from Western cultures. An understanding of this phenomenon will help our cross-cultural engagements experience less friction. This video looks at some of the theories developed by Professor John Mbiti on Africans and time. Professor John Mbiti, a renowned Kenyan-born Christian philosopher, writer, and ordained Anglican priest, is considered the father of modern African theology. In his book, African Religions and Philosophy, Mbiti notes that understanding the concept of time may help to explain beliefs, attitudes, practices, and general way of life of African peoples, not only in the traditional setup, but also in the modern situation. Mbiti observes that the linear concept of time in Western thought, with an indefinite past, present, and infinite future, is practically foreign to African thinking. The future is virtually absent because events which lie in it have not taken place. They have not been realized and cannot therefore constitute time. Mbiti argues that in African cultures, time is largely cyclical, not linear. The past, present, and future exist in relation to one another, but they are also deeply rooted in communal experiences. The past is not merely something that is gone by. It's a living part of the present. The most significant consequence of this is that, according to traditional concepts, time is a two-dimensional phenomenon, with a long past, which he coins in Swahili as zamani, and a present, which he calls sasa, and virtually no future. For a Western mind, the idea of no future might be hard to fathom, but when you view the logic behind a continuous flow, where, like in the concept of human life in relation to time, and on the level of the individual, the rhythm includes birth, puberty, initiation, marriage, procreation, old age, death, entry into the community of the departed, and finally entry into the community of the spirits. This time orientation, governed as it is by the two main dimensions of the present and the past, dominates African understanding of the individual, the community, and the universe. When Africans reckon time, he says, it is for a concrete and specific purpose, in connection with events, but not just for the sake of mathematics. Since time is a composition of events, people cannot and do not reckon it in a vacuum, Mbiti says. Numerical calendars, with one or two possible exceptions, do not exist in African traditional societies as far as he knows. Instead of numerical calendars, there are what we call phenomenon calendars, in which the events or phenomena which constitute time are reckoned or considered in their relation with one another and as they take place, such as they constitute time. An example of this would be a mother recalling the birth date of her child in reference to an event such as a drought or flood or bumper harvest or major calamity. Professor Mbiti adds that in Western or technological society, time is a commodity which must be utilized, sold and bought. Time is money. But in traditional African life, time has to be created or produced. Man is not a slave of time. Instead, he makes as much time as he wants. He adds that when foreigners, especially from Europe and America, come to Africa and see people sitting down somewhere without evidently doing anything, they often remark, "These Africans waste their time by just sitting down idle." Another common cry is, "Oh, Africans are always late." It is easy to jump to such judgments, but they are judgments based on ignorance of what time means to African peoples, Mbiti says. Those who are seen sitting down are actually not wasting time, but either waiting for time or in the process of producing time. Take a minute to think about those two concepts: waiting for time and producing time. These ideas introduce a new dynamic. Time is not running out. One does not want to belabor this point, but certainly the basic concept of time underlies and influences the life and attitudes of African peoples in the villages and, to a great extent, those who work or live in the cities. It is easy then to see how, if you were invited for a wedding in Africa and the card reads, "Guests to be seated by 10 a.m., one should not be surprised if the bridal party arrived at the venue at noon or later, because for them, your invite was also an invitation for you to create time, and in making time, your whole day belongs to their event." Understanding this will help you avoid misinterpreting their late arrival to disrespecting or wasting your time. In the African mind, your acceptance gave up your entire day to this event. This new attitude allows you then to ride with the seemingly late arrivals, slow starts, and never-ending long-winded speeches. In the business arena, reflecting on these concepts of how Africans view time could inject some grace in what often seems like tardiness, thus accommodating the intricacies of concepts such as better late than never. One prominent area that may need further investigation is the area of strategic planning and governance. While other cultures plan generationally, running 100-year-old companies and developing mega projects that venture years into the future despite change in leadership, African societies grapple with organizations that do not go beyond their founder and governments that would rather leave empty coffers than surpluses for future development. Could this theory of having no concept of future, only past and present, be guiding these actions? If we were to accept Mbiti's theory, then must the here and now be enjoyed at the expense of future generations? Although times have changed, and in both corporate and private, Africans have adopted a more Western linear view of time, there may still linger a deeply ingrained view of time, and it manifests in many ways in our day-to-day living.